Well, we're just in time for it to start raining outside. It was a dark and stormy night, and I said to Captain Nemo, tell me a story. No, tell us a story. No. So, yes, the old trainers in there. We've got 4486 Merlin, looking resplendent, in really as-built condition. So yes, a little bit of bad news. Let's get the bad news out of the way. The Easterner is not here. It's on its way back. Unfortunately, it failed the other night, and well, night before last it failed. Basically, didn't know it was equipped with a steam generator. It's not. So yes, unfortunately that went back. Interesting, I wasn't given an option for a replacement, it's just a refund, so I was like, okay. So after going through shades of, oh, this is going to be like Engage, isn't it? I'm now at a point where I've sat and thought about it. It's been 24 hours since it happened. It'll be, you know, this evening it'll be 24 hours since well, it's already been over 24 hours since the return was started and it's actually left. So, you know, basically I stopped and thought. Something I don't do an awful lot, as you may notice with my trains, is I just like, right, that doesn't work, gotta change everything. Now, something it has enabled me to enjoy is I love the size. I really love the size. All this rubbish, and it is rubbish, I will call it for what it is. It is rubbish that it's not much bigger than Engage. It's sufficiently bigger than Engage. It is noticeably bigger. I mean, Dale, I hope you don't mind, sir. I'm going to use one of these two diesels. It's coming your way. But if that's an Engage Class 24, that box is almost the height from the bottom to about there. It's almost the height of that A4 was. And look, if we push that out, look how much gap there is from the bottom of there to the bottom of that. So you can imagine that down there. Saying the A4's probably coming in about here from the bottom of there. You know, it is sufficiently bigger. I think this is the thing. Some of the comments I've seen about TT, I think this is the thing, is that some people seem to be under the delusion it's there to replace Engage, or it's there to replace 00, it's there to replace, it's to give people another option. And I do like to see myself as one of the people that needs another option, because I can't trust British Engage enough. And that's actually quite an eye-opening statement, because I was sort of, oh, Engage or TT or 00, you know, what do I do? Because I have now got an idea, thanks to TT. Regardless of where I go from here, I now have my inspiration, the layout, the railway I want to build, what I want to replicate, where I can, as much as I can. Even in the train set idea for TT, you know, which I don't know if I actually went into, but I'll go into now. That's what I thought I'd get an engine. And it is in Steam. We can have a whistle. So, you know, it is in motion. It's not in motion, but you know, it's there. Anyway, is the Great Central Main Line. Will it be that accurate to the Great Central Main Line? No, not really. It's going to have these on it. It's going to have them. But one engine that I do know was a Great Central engine doing its head in the R career was Flying Scotsman. So, you know, they're okay, yes, you know. But you know, well, I like A4s, so I'm not going to cut my nose off to spite my face with that one. But it finally realises I finally realised watching the one go round, and it's just like, wow, yeah, younger me would have been so over the moon to have that, even without the sounds and everything, you know. Yeah, Mallard's always been a big fixture for many years, you know. Yes, I know, I love the Great Western. Doesn't diminish my love for the Great Western or anything at all. I know I've spent, I've got to do whatever I do, it's got to be Great Western. Well, things change and tastes change, and different influences can change, you know, aid that change. And I think that's where the TT set came into its own, was wow, I've got an A4 going around in a loop here. It ran every day for 5 days, by the way, not all day every day, but it ran at least once a day since it arrived. But which I don't think should be extortionate use on it. My Japanese trains stand it, and I've got to be honest, so to some of my 00 ones, they've had that Trim 10 N-gauge, so British N-gauge. But yeah, so it's kind of that's what I'd like, because obviously the East Coast Main Line for a majority is 4-track, or was 4-track back during the LNER days. So the idea I'd had already to do a twin track loop is basically make a train set here, a TT, which started with the Eastern set and then just getting more track and building on that. It fits the Great Central really well. Obviously today we know it's a twin track main line. I believe the painting I've got is probably just out of sight for you folks. I'm going to try my best to lift you up. The painting I've got the postcard of there, which you might not be able to see in full detail, is Flying Scotsman on the Great Central in its LNER days, on the twin track section. Now, obviously, I didn't have the greatest experience last time I went to the actual Great Central Railway, Preserve Railway. It's where Merlin's sitting here. But it's something interesting I can use that's on the railway I want to replicate. I'd like to recreate. So why the Great Central? Well, it's the LNER in the Midlands. Is one of the easiest ways, but also it is now the route I take to London. When I go by train, I don't drive to London, so yeah, when I go by train, Euston is such an awful station to go in and to use and go in and out of. It's so depressing as well. It's a horrible station. Marylebone is we've been able to sit down before waiting for a train. The way they operate with letting you onto the train 20 minutes earlier, you don't get the big crushes, it's just such a nicer experience, and for what I want to access in London, it's really well suited and really well situated. Okay, like the British Museum, Euston to the British Museum is nothing, but really it's a tube train away from Marylebone, and it's the nicer, bigger tube trains as well, not the very tiny ones. So yeah, and yeah, so I'm getting to know the route a little bit. Obviously there is some Great Western influence, so I'll be able to have some Great Western as well, and some LMS really, because obviously part of the Great Western side of things brings the LMS in at Leamington. You could have that sort of a hint of, but yeah, somewhere in the children's basically. Obviously it's majority a Great Western Main Line known for, but there's the junction takes down to Marylebone. So yes, that's also why the Great Central, because I ride part of the route. Obviously in preservation years, in post end of steam years and first age of steam years, saw that documentary. I thought it's a really, really nice way of saying it, end of the first age of steam. But yes, of course, Marylebone has been the site for many preserved engines doing runs to Stratford and that, but very famously, one time it was host to 2 A4s and an A3. St Andrew Gresley, Mallard and Flying Scotsman all were actually in effect shedded overnight at Marylebone, and ran trips to Stratford each. So there's been a nice LNER steam presence there since, which is, again, is something I will think about. I didn't see that last time, or before last time I went. It's something I'll think about next time I go down. So really, it is now which gauge to do it in. Now, obviously, TT would allow me to get that mainline field, you have to get the running in, and I'm very eager to, because I don't want. I've made I've made such a stand against, like, hang on a minute, yeah, this is why I was trying TT, is because 00 was too big. I kind of want to see that through still. One loco failing shouldn't cancel off the entire plan. See, told you it was active. Is that moving? Is that just me? Is that just the awful camera angle? There we go. I cut the front of the train off. But it's interesting. So I noticed on the phone screen, it looks a lot darker. The engine looks a lot darker than it does on the screen. But yes. So I kind of want to see that through. So I'm thinking TT still. Obviously, the only thing 00's really got going for it, in a regard for my idea and what I want to do with it, is the range of stuff available. Obviously, you got the 04s are out there, the J11s are out there, the A4s, A3s. Because I'm going to want an A4. If I was doing 00, I do run a P2 on there. You know, there's all the K3 moguls, V1, V3 tanks, L1 tanks, G5s. There's the Robinson. Was it the A5? A8 tank, I can't remember now, the 462 tank, the one that Sonic Models did, or doing again, I think, another run's coming. Now, I would say D11, but nearly all the ones out there are all Scottish, and they've got shorter cabs and things. It's a noticeable difference when you see a photograph of a non-Scottish region D11. And I do question why Bachmann did so many Scottish ones compared to, you know, surely a balance could have been struck with that, because there's an awful lot in the second-hand market, and they're nearly all the Scottish ones. So yeah, when it's not, it's a BR one rather than an LNER liveried one. So yes, I'm not quite sure to conclude the D11. Technically, it's there. Obviously, I've got the V2, the B1, and all that. Whereas in TT, it's one of them, an A1 or A3, and hopefully soon the J50. But cast your minds back to a few years back, you know. Also, there's the Hornby B12, but there's the other, there's more LNER than what I mentioned. But cast your minds back. I remember when I was trying to do LNER before, the best I could do for a tank engine was the old J52. And obviously, we've got new ones of those, both from Rapido and Hornby and 00, but J52, an A4, an A3, B12 were all out there. The N2 was out there. I'm thinking back to when I was trying to do LNER when I was younger, what was actually out there. So we're thinking pre-Rapido trains, we're thinking pre-Oxford Rail. I mean, Oxford diecast wasn't a thing on anyone's radar really, back when I'm thinking of. The B1 was out there from Bachmann. I think Hornby were just about to bring it out as well, but the old mainline B1 was out there. Yeah. Oh, sorry, the J72 as well. Yeah, J72. Trying to think, was there anything else ready to run that I can think of? And also, yes, the V1 and V3 tanks and the V2. So there's about 9 engines, I suppose, 9-10 engines, I would say will be liberal with it. So, you know, yes, that's more than the 3, but if you went back to the equivalent period of time for where TT is back to for 00, how many of those would be available still? How many would you lose off that list? Because I mean, like the B12 was the old trying one, I'm sure. Had a wartime black one. Obviously, my Mallard is a Hornby model, which is 90s. I think it's 90s, 80s, 90s, that one. The A3 would be about the same. But it's the mainline ones that I would start to question. And also, yes, because obviously a fully Valenced A4, I don't know when the first one of those was actually brought out. So yeah, you know, basically what I'm saying is, you know, from little acorns do mighty oaks grow. Making the best of what I've got. I mean, ultimately, I could have 2 express trains pulled by 2 different types of engine. I could have a blue A4 and a green A1. Because that's what I'm thinking of doing, is just getting the Blink Bonnie set, the Scotsman set with Blink Bonnie and the Pullmans. Now, the big thing is, of course, no Gresley coaches at the minute. They are meant to be coming. I've seen a 3D CAD, which I think was from Motherwell, Scotland last year, not this year's one, last year's one. So it's sort of like, this is where TT is falling over a little bit. It's like, okay, but when are they meant to be coming out? I know that previous idea was to do a BR era layout, but this is where my heart is. It really is earlier railway companies, when they still had more of an independent identity, because I love private owner wagons mostly as well. You know, I've got the Peachy TT120 wagon. I've got the first one I bought. It's my first TT wagon. I mean, hang on, if we get across 24 again. Just saying. Sorry, I'm gonna rabbit on this one for a bit, because I've had it thrust at me quite a lot. Because you've seen, I'm trying to line the wheels up, but you've seen private owner wagons that big compared to a 24, right? It is a noticeable size difference. But anyway, the only thing we need is Hornby. If you listen, it is moving. The pricks are full on, but it is sliding. Because I know that, because we adjusted it, didn't we? We need Hornby, we need you to bring out Valence single chimney, because the majority were. It was only Mallard and 3 others, I think, that actually got in a double chimney. Because I think even Snarger Gresley was built with a single chimney. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but I think even 4498 was built with a single. Yes, because it never ran in Garter Blue. It's in one of my books. Never ran in Garter Blue with a double. I do have books from when I was trying to do a linear. Look. Profile of the A4s, I'm pretty sure it's in that one. Where we can have a look. Number 7, isn't it? Number 7, I'm sure. There's William Whitelaw. I mean, obviously that's the one that comes in the Eastern set, but again, as built, single chimney. Yeah, Snarger Gresley. Yep, as built. Quite clearly showing a single chimney there. And then after preservation started, and as you can probably read there, I'm going to pause that, read it, spare if I'm not lying when I say, after Snarger Gresley being withdrawn, it was purchased by the A4 Locomotive Society Limited and restored in working condition to Garter Blue livery, which of course it never carried with a double chimney. So Hornby, please. Valenced single chimney A4s, please. So I can have Merlin. that's the one I want. I want Mallard, but I want Merlin as well. Merlin's my favourite. Yes, the So yes, I can have two different colours that way, and then I can have a little yard with the J50 shunting in it while they run around. Beauty of the Bluetooth controllers. I mean, I've seen Peachy mention somewhere he's actually held the fabled 6-pin Bluetooth controller. So that'd be magnificent. To think that I could just sit there with my phone or my iPad, and I could shunt with the automatic gun couplers to shunt there without having to touch anything, whilst two express trains race round. Or, because I've got two J50s on order, I could have one shunting, I could have an A4 and A3 going round, and I have another J50 going round on a little freight train. Tank engines are useful. So, yeah, and then, you know, hopefully more comes out. I mean, if they bring out an 8F, the LNER had 8Fs, they were class 06. So, there's a freighter that benefits the LMS and the LNER, and one I can see them doing because of that, because it supports then the Duchess and the and what's already out there for the LNER. So yeah. So once the coaches are out, we'll be on to a winner. I mean, who knows? Who knows? They could even bring the coronation set to TT. The biggest thing still, it's going to remain the case until it happens, is we do need another manufacturer to start bringing locos to the table, locos and stock to the table. It's all very well to cite the class 31 example or the Panya example, where obviously Hellion famously said, right, that's it, okay, we're out, we're not doing it. Yeah, that was bad behaviour on Hornby's part, but it's worth remembering that certain people aren't in charge anymore, and such aggressive attitudes have already been shown not to be the case still, because look how Rapido and Hornby have now worked together to make sure they're not duplicating J52s and they're doing in 00. So, you know, I have confidence that if a manufacturer came forward now, that it wouldn't be the same response, and that it would only be to the benefit of the rest of us. And even if they do decide to do the same engine, I mean, there's no reason. That's the only thing that gets me about this 31 is, okay, Hornby said, oh yeah, but we're doing that or whatever, or the Panya as well, we're doing that. Stamp feet. Why not just carry on anyway? Because you could look at the Hornby list of things they're proposing to do and go, right, yeah, they're proposing to do it, but we could just put that out there now, almost. Not obviously not right this minute, but we could probably get ours to market before those came out, and, you know, put the ball back in Hornby's goal almost back in the day. But that's what's done is done. You know, it's not going to be. We can't no amount of, you know, bleating any which way. And it's the same way with the Hornby should have done Engage. Well, probably yeah. I mean, the Brighton Bell was a fine example of how wide it can sell. On the chocolate and cream one, the blue and grey one, I seem to remember didn't do quite so well. I think I mentioned that before. I don't think it did quite so well. Yeah. I remember them being on offer, but because I was tempted to get one a couple of times, and I noticed, oh, Brighton Bell offered, nice. Oh, it's the blue and grey one. You know, you're going to get that. You want the chocolate and cream, don't you, really? Unless you're doing a in-era layout that needs the blue and grey one. But they didn't. You know, what's done is done. I mean, they could always still come to Engage in the future, I suppose, if they wanted to. But I like the size of TT that a bit more. It is a nice medium. It doesn't sit exactly between 4mm and 2mm, obviously, because it's been 2.5mm. It's moved again. But it does, at the same time, it feels like it needs to scratch that itch. I think I like the fact during the course of this video, 24 minutes of video, apologies for that. I was only going to try and do a quick one saying, Easton has died. I'm doing a linear, Great Central. Here we go, but we got distracted talking about A4s, didn't we? And what a fine engine to talk about too. Yeah. So basically, I think I seem to have come to the conclusion. I think I'm doing TT still. It's the most sensible option for me. And then when I do get a larger space, it's going to be really cool to see what I can do to actually try and represent you know, obviously not in locos and stock again, but at the very least in landscape, appearance, all the rest of it, the Great Central Railway. And have those big coal trains coming through as well, and all sorts, you know. Yeah, I think it could be quite exciting. But yeah, so, you know, and who knows, we may see an 04, we may see, you know, for years we didn't have an 04 in 00, we didn't have a J11, we didn't have, I mean, I'm trying to think, did we have any LNER tender engines? Because until the J11, I don't think we did have an 060 tender engine. Oh, sorry, that's what I meant, the 060 tender engine. They were going, but what about the A4? You mentioned that already. Or the A3? Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I meant 060 tender engines. When was the first LNER 00 LNER 060 tender engine actually brought out in 00? Because I want to say it was the J11. I don't think there was one before that. So, you know, and I've got faith in the 3D printing community. We get the J50 chassis, take coupling off one end, a 3D printed tender with some sort of way of connecting it to the chassis, a body on the chassis, a little 060 tender engine. Could we have the elusive J6 in TT at one point, some point, you know? So, I mean, no reason why this can be done in 00 as well, really, but, you know, the wheels might not be quite right spacing, but you might be able to get something that looks like a J6, or a J11, or a J15. You could even do ones for each, I suppose. I mean, if I was any good at it, I'd have a go myself, but I haven't got the, I don't think I've got the capacity at the moment with everything that's going on. Well, no, I haven't, to experiment in that direction. Anyway, I will ask, what do you think? You know, because as I say, even if the branch line is going to be incredibly squashed in here in 00. But yes, I'll ask you what you think, and you know, 00 N T T O S G 5.5, 5.25, whatever it is. Yeah, 7.5 inch gauge. Is it 7.25 or 5.5 inch? 2 foot, 4 foot and a half, 7 foot, 5 foot, whatever it is, 3'6", whatever it is you decide to do. We can all be friends. None of us are there to challenge the others. The only battle of the gauges that truly was between Brunel and Stevenson, and it was between the companies that by the time it got to it, really, wasn't it, rather than Brunel and Stevenson. It was Brunel's broad gauge versus the 4.5. We don't need to be fighting each other. No one's here to replace anyone else. I feel like the beginning of a Toy Story. No one's getting replaced. Yeah, it's not here to replace anything else. It's not taking resources away from 00 projects. From everything I understand, it's a separate team working on TT. And it's, you know, it's providing people like me that new option. So yes, onwards and upwards with TT for myself, and I shall see you all in another video. Take care all, and goodbye.